Hello everyone. Welcome to our artistic webinar. Oh, let me get my screen going here. There we go. All right, so today we're going to be using the Artistic Suite software, and we're going to be using a few of the toolbars, and I'm just going to go through a couple of the ones to show you which ones we're going to be using. We'll be using the main menu bar, and we have our usual file, edit, view, tools. Our help screen is there, a lot of different things like that, so we'll be using that one. We also will be using the standard toolbar, and if you look on the standard toolbar, you'll see that some of these, they're like shortcuts to some of the things that were in the main menu. So in the main menu, you would find new, open, save, print, copy, paste. So you'll find a lot of these if you wanted to go into the main menu bar under File or Edit. So it just gives you more options. So if you can't remember maybe what an icon is on a standard toolbar, you can go up to the main menu, and it just makes it easy to give you more options and where to go. We also have our Tools toolbar. This sits to the left-hand side of your workspace, and we use this a lot. Okay, so we have our selection tools, we have our edit shape nodes and zoom and different things like that. We also have what you will see is just this line here of icons under your tools toolbar. If you see one like this little zoom tool here with this little bitty triangle in the bottom right hand corner, that means it's got a flyout menu. So if you put your cursor on that and hold your left mouse button down, it opens up that flyout menu. So there's more options to that particular tool. So we'll be using, and you may need the flyout menu for our drawing tools or for the create shapes. So you'll see how that works as we go along. The palette toolbar, this is our thread palette toolbar. There's an upper and a lower line of colors. This one here is the top, it would be the top row, and it is our available colors that we can choose from our thread palette. So when I'm going through and creating our design, I will tell you, okay, we're going to go choose this color down here. So if I wanted a color on here and I was looking for a specific color, like in my directions I'll tell you to go and choose maybe copper color. If you put your mouse over that color, it will actually tell you what the color name is on that particular one. There's two areas on this. You can see on the top left-hand side, it's kind of an open area. On the bottom, top left, open, bottom right side. These are two separate different ways to choose. So the top left is for lines, outlines, straight lines, that type of thing. The bottom solid is if you wanted a filled in area, that's where you would click. So it does two different things. Sometimes it's nice to work with the colors of the brand of thread that I'm going to be working with. In that case, I would go to my standard toolbar, remember that's above the workspace, and see where it says Edit Palette here. If I click onto that, then it opens up a box and shows me how many or the different thread brands that there are to choose from, and you can see that there's a lot more than what you see on my screen here because it does have a scroll bar. So you can scroll down and look for the brand of thread that you want to use. Then when you go into choosing colors from the palette, they will actually be the same color, name, and number as the thread brand you're using. So it kind of helps when you're working to create a design. And sometimes it doesn't really matter to me what the thread color actually is. It's just a way for me to know this is an area here, this is an area here. And when I created this, I didn't change my thread palette. I just needed different colors for different areas, and you'll see what I mean when I start showing you how I created this design. So I would choose, just select the brand I'm using, then that would go away and we'd be back to the available thread color palette. So now under that available thread palette, you will see the currently used palette toolbar. And if you look, I should have gone back, this right here is the threads that are available. This one here is actually where you're going to see the currently used threads. So I'm going to go back to this one here. And in the design, as I was creating, this is how it looked. Okay, I don't know whether this was from the one that I'm using here, but I had an item selected on in my workspace, and I can tell that that item was a line or an outline, no fill stitch. And the way I can tell that is that the color of the item that I have selected is this one here. It has a little pencil in this top left corner. That means that it's an outline. In this box here, this white one at the very far left of my available colors, I can see a little bucket in the bottom right corner. That means it has no fill stitch in that selected item. Now if it was a design that had a fill stitch in it, my bucket would be over in here, and maybe I would have a pencil over here to indicate that it didn't have an outline to it. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and when we get into the software, I'll kind of go over that to show you a little bit more as I'm creating that design. I can also use, if I have an item selected, maybe it has an outline and a fill stitch, I could maybe click on this what do they call it? They call it the none color square. I could click on that if I didn't want it to have the fill stitch, and it would remove that fill stitch from that selected design. So I can use it that way as well. All right, so the project today is a table runner that I created by using the printed fabric, scanned it into my software, and I created applique flowers that matched my my fabric. So you can see here that this block here are all flowers that look a lot like the flowers in the fabric itself. So this right here is all fabric. These are the flowers that I created to look like these in the fabric. They're the same size. I tried to stick with the same color of fabric as they used in the flowers, and I also used the same thread colors. So it was kind of fun to do. So the fabric I chose was a print that had flowers that would be easy to recreate and would give me enough variety to decide which ones I wanted to do and what color scheme I wanted to go with. I liked the pink, but I also liked the blue and the green, so I did most of mine in this pink color, but I also had some of this in there and this one in there. The directions are for this flower here. So it was kind of fun. So first of all, we need an image of our fabric so that we can get this into our software to work with. And it's easier if I don't have to try to freehand draw this and get it to match. I can use the fabric, get my image into my software, and go with that. So I did my PowerPoint to show you that there's more than one way to get your image into the software. The first, and probably the most that I use, is the scanner. It scans it in so easily, and my scanner I love that. So what I did was I'm going to go into my software. I'm going to click on New, and you can see this is our New, or I could go under File, New, but that creates this box here. This is our New Design dialog box. And I want to create new, so I select that one, and then I click on Next. Then it goes to the Fabric dialog box, and this is an important box because we want to, when we're digitizing something, we want to choose the fabric that is going to be closest to the fabric we're going to be embroidering on, because then the software can adjust our stitches to sew the best on those fabrics. So I was working with cotton fabric, so I wanted to open the Embroidery Smooth category, and you just click on, there's a plus in front of it when it's not open, so you click on that and it opens up a lot of different fabrics to choose from. So I chose cotton 2. It's a cotton fabric, it's close to what I actually was stitching on, and sometimes I'll change the color and sometimes not. To me, unless I'm trying to see if a color of my fabrics are going to work on a garment or whatever with a certain color, then I might choose that. I choose white a lot just because I don't want any color at all behind it, but really it's the color doesn't really matter to me. So then I click on Next. The Artwork Source dialog box opens up. So now here is where I'm going to choose where I want to get my image from, and I'm choosing Get Image from Scanner. So actually before I click on Next, I make sure my scanner's on, I make sure it's plugged into my computer, and it is ready to go. Then I can click on Next. Now I get my image scan box that pops up. This is where I'm going to make sure I have my fabric on my scanner bed, and I want to select Preview because I want to see what it's going to look like before I actually scan it in. I want it to be in color, and I want it to be 100%. So I want it the actual size that it is. And then when I hit Preview, it's going to show me a preview of my fabric. Now there's times that I scan it in, maybe I scanned in a portion of it that doesn't exactly have the flower I'm looking for in it, or maybe I have a wrinkle in it, or maybe it's crooked, whatever reason. Because I did preview, I can now make sure I can adjust my fabric if I need to. And I like that because it just makes, I'm not scanning just because. So that works out really good for me. So once you get that done, then we're going to go ahead and click on Scan. Now after it scans, you're going to see the little progress bar there. So you're going to wait until it's all done, and when the scanning is complete, then it's going to pop up with the Save As dialog box, because now it wants to know where you're going to put it. So you're going to name it something so you know where what it is. You want to choose somewhere on your computer to put it so you'll know where to find it, and then you're going to click on Save. Now when you click on Save, we've already saved it somewhere else, but right away we go back to the Artwork Image box. Now it wants to know what do you want to do with that image. I want to open it as a backdrop because I want to see this on my workspace so that I can use that to create my design. So then I'm going to click on Finish. And now you can see in our workspace we have our scanned in image, and I'm ready to now create my flower. So that's how easy it is to use your scanner. Now another option would be the webcam. And I'll go through the steps to show you how you would use your webcam and kind of explain a couple things with you on that as well. So again, we're going to click on New, and we get this box up, our New Design dialog box. Create New, click on Next. Goes back to the fabric again. We're going to click on Next. And our artwork, so this time I want to make sure that my webcam is, in my case I'm not using a laptop, so I have a separate webcam for my desktop that I do have to plug in when I want to use it. So I want to make sure that it's plugged in, it's ready to go, and then I'm going to click on Get Image from Webcam and then click on Next. If you've never used a webcam before, it's really fun and it is so easy. But don't scare yourself, because when you click on Get Source from Webcam, your picture is probably going to be the first thing you see on your computer, and sometimes that's pretty scary if you look like me. So we're going to go now into our preview, because when I clicked on that, it went to the preview, and again, right away, I saw me. It's live. So I put my fabric on a piece of cardboard to make sure it would stay flat and not be wrinkled, you know, because if I'm trying to hold it up to my webcam, obviously it's going to be, you know, not straight and everything. So, and I wanted to get it as close to my webcam as I could and keep it clear and not blurry. The closer to the webcam you get, the bigger the image is going to be in your software. So I did hold it up as close as I could, and I was kind of peeking around the corner. And then when you get it where you want it, we're going to click on Capture New. Now when you do that, you can crop your area that you want to work with. So even though I was close and there's not a whole lot more in there, I decided that I would crop that area that I wanted to work with and not have the rest of it on the screen. So I clicked and dragged a box around the flower. Now if you don't get it where you want it, you can just click somewhere off of that flower and then click and drag another box around it until you get it where you want it. So it's kind of, you know, easy to work on with. And then once you get that, you're going to click on Save. Right over here where it says Save, you're going to click onto that, and your artwork image box pops back up again, and we want to again select Open as Backdrop, and then we're going to click on Finish. When you do that, your image shows up in your workspace and you're ready to work with it. With the webcam, remember how I said with the scanner it was the exact size of the fabric flower that I scanned in? With a webcam, that's not the case. With the webcam, it was the closer I got to it, the larger my image would be. So if I wanted this flower to be the exact size of my flower in my fabric, which I did, I would go ahead and digitize this. I just zoom in to work on it, and when I was done I would resize my flower and use my measuring tool in the software to make sure that I resized it large enough or small enough, whichever that worked, so it would match the flower in my fabric. So now that we have our image, I'm going to go to the software and show you how I created my flower. So here's my software, and I'm going to click on New. I had to have my software open before we came on, so I really just went ahead and didn't have anything in it so that I could show you really how you would bring in an image that you saved if you didn't use it right then or wanted to do something else with it. So again, Embroidery Smooth, Cotton 2, click on Next. Now, because I have saved my image, whether it's a scanner image or the webcam, I can go find that again from File. And you can see I've already gone through the path, but if you didn't, you would use your Browse button here, and you could then look for that image. This is the image that I scanned in. Click on Open, and then that path to get there would show up here like it does on mine. Click on Next, and then I want, again, for it to open as backdrop, so I'd click on Finish. And there's my, my fabric. So I tend to zoom in whenever I'm working with an image, no matter what size it is. I like it to be close enough to where I can work with it. So we have our image in here. We'd be ready to start creating. Now, before I begin doing something like this, I have to decide, what do I need to do first? I want this to be an applique, so I want to make sure the layers are in the right order. And this one's not too tough, but there are some that, well, even in this fabric, that took a little bit more planning. So first of all, the pink petals, that's the furthest thing away. So that's the first thing I want to digitize, because I will want my pink fabric down before I start doing any of the others. So this would be the first area. I'm going to do the pink petals. Then on top of those, I would want to do these details here, because this part, this orange center part, is on top. It layers on top of the ends of these little detail pieces. So details would be second. Then I'm going to do the orange center of my flower. Then I'm going to do the details that sit on top of the orange center. And last, I'm going to do this little orange or tan looking center to the whole flower. So I've got my order of how I want them to be. So first of all, I'm going to start with this flower here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, because this one I really want you to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to create my applique. So first of all, over here on my Tools toolbar, I want to use my Create Outline Shape. Now, it's like down in the center part of this, and again, if you hover over any of these little tools, it will tell you the names of them. Yours may not have this one here as the tool that's available. Remember, I told you about the little solid triangle in the lower right corner of that? If I put my mouse cursor on it, hold my left mouse button down, it opens up my flyout menu. So if that wasn't the one, I would just hold my left mouse button down, I would slide over here until I got on that one, and then I would let my left mouse button go. And that would be the tool then would be available to use. So you can see that it's nice that you've got those tools available, but they're not always showing. So just look for those little triangles if you want more options. You can see our selection tools gives you more, our view tools give you more, our shapes, there's more of those. So don't forget that you have those options. So we're going to start doing our applique for the pink fabric. That would be the petals of our flower. So I need to add nodes. So as soon as I clicked on this, can you see what happened to my cursor? It has some little, I don't even know what you call them, little things instead of my usual cursor. So this tells me that I have selected that. So I want my petals to be underneath the orange part of this flower. So I'm going to start inside of it. I'm going to click, left click. It gave me a little square. Now the next click I do is going to be a little round circle, which means that's going to be a curve. The next one I do, however, I really don't want it to be a curve. I'm going to put it somewhere up in this area here. So what I want to do is hold my Shift key down on the keyboard and click. And look what happened. I have another square. Now I'm going to let go of the Shift key and I'm going to do a click. See, it's a curve. Click. Now here, again, I want to hold my Shift key down because this one I want a little square. Let my Shift key go and then I'm going to click, click. Now when I get over here, I want again to hold my Shift key down and I want to click. I'm going to again hold my Shift key down here, and again I want to be in this little orange area. I'm going to click, When I go back up on this side, I want to make sure that I don't click on top of any other node that I already put down. I also don't want to get too close and cross over. That's why I'm clear over here instead of like right on this line here, because if I do, my lines might cross, and then my satin stitch when I get to that part is not going to look very nice. So I'm going to hold my shift key down. I'm going to go ahead and put another node there, let go of my shift key, and I'm going to continue around my petal. Very easy. Whoops. Okay, now if you get a wild one, hit your backspace, and then you can go on. All right? I find that you don't have to be real exact on this, because when you're done, it's going to look really good anyway. There's just those things you need to be careful of so that we don't have an issue. All right, so I'm shifting. Now when I'm ending, I want to be right on top of the first one that I started on. So I'm holding my shift key down, I'm clicking, and that finishes my flower. Okay? Fills it in, it shows me that it's, you know, that I have finished and gone all the way around. So now what I want to do is I want to go up here to my rectangle selection, and I'm just going to click on that, and that does finish it off. It tells it I'm done, because I could have gone on, and you'll see that a little bit later. I could have gone on and done more of them, but I only want that one flower right now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit over here in our object properties box, and you can see I have a fill stitch, which is a step stitch. I have an outline, which is a running stitch. I don't want a fill stitch. Now again, remember we could go down in the palette. So remember I told you that if an object had an outline and a fill, you would see it down here. So I have a little bucket here, and I have a little pencil here. That means I have an outline in navy. I have a fill stitch in the aqua. So I don't want the fill stitch. I could click on my none square over here in the bottom, and that would take it out. Or I could go up under my object properties in my fill tab and click on none there, and it takes it away. So you have two different ways of doing it. One way might be easier for you to remember than the other. So that's why I like to show you more than one way if I can. So on the bottom there, remember we just took the fill away. Now we can see we only have one color down here, and it's got the pencil in it, which means we only have an outline there. So now I want to change the color, so I'm going to go to my available colors, which is the top row, and I want to change the color of that. So I'm going to click on Copper Rose, and I told you that if you go on over one, it will show you what the name of that color is. If I'm in the bottom, it'll show me a fill. If I clicked there, it would fill it in again. The top part, open part, now have a pencil on it. So I'm going to click onto that, and it changed the color in the bottom from navy to the Copper Rose. So that's how easy it is to change colors. And we're going to be actually working with a lot of colors when I do this, because with the applique, we have a placement line, which is exactly what we just made. We made a placement line. We're going to create a tack down stitch. We're going to create another stitch that supports the satin stitch that we do. So we're going to have 3 outlines on this flower. They all need a different color because I need them to stop in between so that I can do what I need to do to put my applique fabric down and make sure everything's good. So to do that, I need to change the colors each time. And so in the instructions, you're going to see a lot of color changes, but you'll get the feel for why, and it'll make it a lot easier for you as go along. It's not as complicated as it might sound. All right, so we have our placement line. I now want to create my tack down stitch. So we're going to go down to this icon on our Tools toolbar, and it's called Auto Border. It's the second one from the bottom. I'm going to click onto that, and I want this to be to the inside. I want this to be a distance point or 0.8 millimeters, and I only have to type in 0.8 for it to be that way. I want one repeat, and I want this type to be a running stitch, and then I'm going to click on OK. Now I need to change the color of that, remember? So I'm going to go to Seal Brown, and again, if you don't know where that is, you're just going to move on over until you find it. And now we have two colors down here. We have our Seal Brown and we have our Copper Rose. Doesn't matter what order they show me on the bottom, they're just available colors. Now what does matter though is in what order they're going to stitch out. So what I want to do is find out and keep track of that. So I'm going to go over here on my Tools toolbar, and the very bottom one says Auto Sequence Control. I'm going to click onto that. My Run Optimizer Once dialog box opens. I want to click on Advanced and click on OK. Now my sequence box over here shows me I have two layers, which I do. I have the first layer would be one of those stitches that I just created. The second layer would be the other one for each color. What I really need is to make sure that my placement line, which is the Copper Rose, is the first layer. So if it's not, which let me see, right now we have, if I click on layer 1, it will show me which one, and I can see it's actually the second one I did. If I'm not sure which one that is, I can look down here and it's Seal Brown, which means it's the inside stitch that I created. And if I zoom in more, you'll be able to see this is the Copper Rose, and inside of that one is the Seal Brown. Okay, so that's not what I have. So if I click on the second layer, it zooms back out, but it shows me, I can tell right now that it is the placement line. But I want that to be the first layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor on the second layer, hold my left mouse button down, I'm going to drag it below that first layer. Now it is the first layer. It'll be the first thing that stitches. That's exactly what I need. All right. I want that one selected right now because I'm going to go back to my auto border, click onto that, and this time I want to go to the outside. I want it at the 0.8 millimeters, and I again want a type running stitch, and we want one repeat still, and we're going to say OK. And now I need to change that color on that one, and we're going to change that to, what did I do on that? I'm going to change that to, I guess I don't know what color I changed it to. Must have lost it. Sorry. Must be Persian red somewhere. Oh, that's it right there. Okay, so we're going to click onto that one. When I'm creating these and not writing instructions, I honestly don't even look at this. I just start clicking in different colors all along here. But when I was writing it up, I didn't want you to get confused, so I tried to keep an order going for you. All right, so now we have three lines. We have our placement line, which is in the center. Our second one is the tack down, and the third one would be the other supporting stitch for my satin stitch. Now I'm actually ready for the satin stitch, so I want to select layer 1 again, and I'm going to go back to auto border. This time I want it to the outside, but I want the distance at 0. One repeat. This time I want it at satin serial. I want a width of 2 millimeters on this one, and I'm going to click on OK. Now I have a satin stitch that covers those 3 lines that I put in. I want to change the color of this, and I'm going to change it to this, this red color right here. And we are now ready to start doing the details on top of the pink fabric. So that's pretty easy. There's not a whole lot to the applique. It is just so much fun. It's so quick. It's so easy to do. And we're ready to move on. So now, to do the details up here, I need to go back to my Create Outline Shape. So we're going to click onto that, and we're going to go ahead and remember how I said the first one's going to be a little square. Then I'm just going to do some lines. Now this time I want to land on that little square, so I'm going to put I'm going to hold the left mouse button down, click on top of it. I'm going to now right click with my mouse. That finishes that one, but I'm still can move on and do other ones. So now I'm going to click again, go up here, and right back down here, hold Shift key, click, right click. I wasn't real picky when I was doing these because they looked good no matter what, so they don't really have to follow exactly, but I wanted it as close as possible without me spending too long doing them. All right, so we would go all the way around here, and I think you've got the idea of it. It's just repeat, repeat, repeat on this, and it does go pretty quick. Just don't forget to right click between them. Okay, so now if I had gone all the way around, then we would be ready to change the color of them. Or I want to, first of all, remember we're going to go up here to the rectangle selection to tell it we're done doing that. Look over here in our sequence box. Look at all of these little things that we created. Each one has its own layer. So when I clicked on that one, it selected that particular one that we did. That one did the same way. Well, I really want to group these. I didn't keep moving on all of them because I wanted them to stop down here. If I would have just kept moving on the whole thing, if I messed up one, I'd be it would be harder for me to fix it. So these, oh, you know what, I want to do a couple more. Nope, I don't have to. Okay, so these I would want to do my selecting of all of them. So to do that, select the top or the bottom one, hold your Shift key down, and click each layer of those detail pieces. Now, if you can't see all of them, and when I would be completely done, I wouldn't be able to see them all, we have a little scroll bar at the side. If you take your cursor, and you can't see it unless you take your cursor over here, then you can actually scroll to those other pieces that you couldn't see. Now, I did find when I first started working with the software that if this was too close to this box, I couldn't see that scroll bar, and it was really frustrating at first until I realized what was happening. So just scooch it over. You'll see the little slide bar, and then you can move it that way. So select all your pieces, and then with your cursor in your workspace, right-click, and let's combine them. Click and combine. Look what happened. It put them all on that one layer. So when I'm ready to stitch those out, it will stitch all of them as one. And then I've just got a few jump stitches that I would have to clip out of there. All right, so now I want to, when I get that done, I think in my instructions I did not have you change the color of those, so you can, or you can leave them. We're going to change the color of everything else, so as long as they're not the same color as something else, we're good to go. All right, so now we would be ready to do the orange part of this flower. So again, we need to come over here to create outline shape. We're going to click, we want to make sure that we cover up the ends of all of these here. So if we made one a little short, that's okay, just make your flower a little bit further in. And I didn't go down to the center on this. I just really kind of clicked and kind of like that. Maybe here. So it's kind of like we did the outside petals, just not as deep. I didn't go to the center with it. And then when you get back here, don't forget to go ahead and finish it up on the piece that you started with. Go ahead and do your rectangle selection. Again, we have a fill. We don't want a fill stitch. We could come down here and just click on it here, and it's gone. And now I need to change the color of that because, of course, we're in the wrong color. So we're going to change that one maybe to Tea Rose. And if I don't change it, right now it's the same color as one of the other ones were. So I'll just do it deep chestnut right now. It doesn't really matter, but in the instructions it'll walk you through. All right, so now we would be ready to continue doing the same steps that we did for the petals. We would do our auto border. We'd do inside first, change the color, we would choose that first outline again, then we would auto border again, we'd go to the outside, and then we'd auto border our satin stitch around it. Details, same thing that we did for these other details. Now the center of this flower, I did a little bit differently. I went over here to our shapes. So our create shapes, if you get your fly menu out, you can see that we have a lot of different options there. So I wanted the lips. I can go over here and I can hold it down and drag. Oh, I've got to select it first. Drag a circle around till I get it about the size I want in the center. Let me scroll in a little. Now again, that is an outline and it's a fill stitch. This one I want to leave as an outline and a fill stitch. So in this case, when I choose a color for it, I'm going to choose in the top part and same color in the bottom part. So I have an outline and I have a fill. Right over here you can see it on my used colors and my toolbar. That color has a pencil and a bucket in it, which means I have a fill and an outline in that same color there. So I would be ready to stitch this out and sew out my flower. So it really is easy to do. And then don't forget, of course, you want to save all this and send it to your machine. And if you're not familiar with using this software, when you go to File, Save As, you will see I always save everything as a draw file first of all. Then I go back in and then I save it also as a JEF file because I'm going to use my Genome. But there are a lot of different file formats in here for the different machines. So your machine will probably use any one of these formats that are in here. So the software not only works for a Genome, but it works for all these other brands of machine as well. So it's a great software and it's not brand specific, which I love. So you'd be ready to stitch that out. All right, so let me go back to the PowerPoint real quick here and I'll go through, and I'm going to show you some more in the software in a little bit. But what I wanted to show you as well is there's different ways of stitching out your applique. We can use the software and print out our templates to cut our fabric with. So it's easy to pre-cut the applique fabric pieces, and depending on the applique that I'm doing, there's times that I will pre-cut my fabric, and I did on some of them for this this table runner. So here's your print preview. When you get it up, there are a lot of different things that are first of all going to show up. And over here under print, anything that has a check mark in it is what will print out. So in this case, in most cases when I print anything out, I eliminate quite a few of these. I may keep a bunch of them, but usually not all of them. In this case though, I wanted to cut out my pattern pieces. So I went over here, and under that box right here it says design only. When you click on design only, the only thing that's going to print is this design. That's it, in the size that it's going to stitch out. So that's what I wanted, and I needed to print 2 of them out because I have the petal pieces, which actually I just cut out around here. It was 1 piece that I cut, and I need the center, the orange center of it as well. So I printed out 2, cut them out of my paper, set that on my fabric, and cut out my pieces. This is what it looked like when it's stitched out, the design only. So that was pretty easy. I like the options that I have to print a lot of things out. And this is what it looked like when I cut it cut out, and this would be the pink fabric for my petals. When you go when you pre-cut your pieces, you may want to use a temporary spray adhesive on the wrong side of your fabric to hold it inside that placement line so that it doesn't move on you as you're stitching. Love that temporary spray adhesive. It certainly does help a lot. So now I also needed to, remember we used a lot of different stitches in that to create our applique. So I also printed it out this way. And then down here where it shows me my design sequence information, this is each area stops. So the first line that we did was our placement line. It would stitch that out and it will stop. Okay? This is where I now set my pink fabric over this, or if it's pre-cut, set it inside that placement line. And then the tack down, remember that was inside of the placement line, so it's actually going to hold my fabric in place. It's going to tack it down and hold it in place. The outside of our placement line is, remember, it's going to support our satin stitch. So I know that actually these 3 can be stitched in the same color that I'm going to do my satin stitch. So I didn't change the color of thread. I left it the same for all of those. It was just to show me the color stops. Then I would change my thread color, and I wrote right on here what colors of thread I was using. I wanted it to look just like the fabric, so this was a cream thread for the details here. Then I had, for my orange fabric, my placement line. I set my pre-cut fabric inside the placement line, did my tack down, did the other line, and again these were the same color that I used to go around my satin stitch on that orange fabric, and that was a cream color thread. So really, when I got here, the thread color stayed the same right up until I did the tan center. So I didn't have a whole lot of thread color changes, which was kind of nice. So this is a good way to use your printout when you created something like this where you've got a lot of color changes. You don't want to get confused when you're going through the steps on your machine. It's just an easy way for me to keep track of how I'm going about. So another way that we can cut our shapes out is by using our Silhouette Cameo or the Zing cutter, and they will cut it out perfectly as well. So, and actually they're more accurate than me cutting with scissors around a pattern. So I would make sure first of all that my cutter is attached to the computer and turned on, and then I'm going to take the pink fabric, I'm going to place it onto the sticky mat and load it into the cutter. Now I'm back to my software, and I'm going to go under File, under the main menu, File, Export, and over here into this one that pops out here, down here to Crystals, /cutters. And this is going to open up this box here. Now, if you look at this, all of the lines that we digitized show up in the origin box down here. So you can see there's a lot of lines going for our applique here. We need to choose the one that we need our size to be cut. So it's the center line. It was the first line we created. It is the copper rose color. Remember, that was the first color we did. So I would click on copper rose, select it up here, and then I would do a trace, because I want to make sure that when my cutter starts cutting that it's going to cut on the fabric. And I don't know about you, but I use all my little pieces of fabric. So sometimes I don't have a big square of fabric on there, I have a little square. So I want to move my cutter on that to where it's going to cut on the fabric. So I can trace around and see if I need to move the blade on there to a different area on my cutter before I start cutting. When I have that, then I'd be ready to go. So this is what it looks like when you choose your copper rose. It shows you the line that it's going to cut. That's perfect. So then when I know I'm ready, I'm just going to click on cut. Over on this side here is where you're going to choose the cutter that you're working with. So it would then cut the flower. As soon as you click on cut, then you would remove the sticky mat, carefully remove your flower petals from it, and then you'd get it ready to cut the center flower. So in this case, we're going to choose our tea rose color, because that was our placement line for that. So you can see it just shows you that one line. So it's really quick and easy to cut out and accurate. It cuts them out so accurately. Another option for getting our appliques done is to trim in place. In this case, we're going to hoop our background fabric, which was my placemat fabric, the solid color, and I'm going to hoop the fabric with the stabilizer and place that on the embroidery machine. I'm going to first of all stitch out my placement line. I'm going to set my piece of fabric on top of my placement line, and then I'm going to stitch the tack down stitch. Now I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, but not the fabric from the hoop. You want to leave that in there, and you're going to carefully trim around our petals with your scissors all the way around, and you can see that I don't go down into here. This is all going to be covered by satin stitch anyway, and I know that I have a little ways that I can leave a little bit of fabric there and not worry about it. So it's pretty easy to trim. Then when you get that all trimmed all the way around, you're going to put your hoop back on the machine, and you're going to continue stitching until you get to the orange center applique piece. And then you're going to do it the same way we just did the pink. You're going to stitch the placement line, place your piece of orange fabric over it, do your tack down stitch, remove the hoop from the machine, and trim around that orange fabric, put it back on the machine, and finish it up. Now the other thing that I did on this table runner was I created a 3D flower. So the way I did that was in the software again, and using my finished flower. So I'm going to quickly go back here and just show you quickly how that was created. So let's say I finished this flower, it's all digitized. I need to just add a stitching line to make this 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my, this time I really want my, I need to open up my box again. Where'd it go? If you can't find your sequence manager, it says that, oh, I don't have anything selected. You have to have it selected. Go back to your rectangular tools. Gotta have rectangular tools, Cook. We're going to go to advanced. Open it up again. I want to go back down here, and remember I can't get all the way down because I need to get over here to my scroll bar. Scroll down. I want this first one again. And we're going to go to our auto border. And in this case, I want it to the outside. I want the distance on this one to be, I can't remember now what I did with it. Let's try 3 on it. It is in the instructions, but I'm just going to try 3 because I want it up here. Let's go with 3. Running, see how far out I end up. That's actually not too bad. But it'll be in the instructions on exactly what I did. But that's not too bad. I want it outside of this area here. I could have probably done 2.5 and made it a little closer. So you'll play with that and see or follow the instructions on it. But see how that added that stitch to the very end? And it is at the very end of all of our stitching on a flower, which is where we want it. And then I would come down here and change the color to something. Now I would be ready to stitch out my 3D flower. So let me go back on here and show you what I did to create that 3D flower. In this case, I hooped a piece of poly mesh cutaway stabilizer and I stitched my placement line. I then put my piece of pink fabric on top of it. I want to make sure that it's not so tight of a piece that I don't have a seam allowance around, because now I need a seam allowance. So I wanted the piece to be big enough that I would have enough fabric around my flower. Now we're going to go ahead and follow all of our steps for the applique. We're going to go ahead and do our next stitch, but we're not going to trim away any of this flower. Okay, we're going to leave our pink fabric on there. We're going to go ahead and finish the steps. So actually the only applique we're doing on this is the orange center. So what we'll end up with is we will have a satin stitch. So the next stitch that we have will be on the outside. Remember how we have the inside outside placement line? So this one will be out here. Then it will do the satin stitch around it. We'll do our details on the petals. We'll do our orange applique piece just like we did with the original flowers, and we'd finish that off. So then we're going to place a piece of fabric with the right side down on top of it. So we've stitched all except for that very last stitch that we just created. So remember, that's outside of our satin stitch edge, and I think you can see the satin stitch in here. So here's our stitching line, and I did go around it twice for this. When you're done, you're going to take the hoop off of the machine. You're going to trim away, and I left about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. I clipped into these little areas right here to make sure that when I turned it right side out it would be in really good. So this is what it looked like. I did take a piece of Steam-A-Seam too, and I laid it somewhere on, and I didn't really care if it was right down the center or whatever. So just make sure that you have one down there. Press it in place, and then you're going to cut it right down the center of that Steam-A-Seam too. I think you can see here where I cut it. And I didn't go all the way to the edge of it either. I just wanted it a big enough spot that I could turn this right side out without having it fray away or anything. Turn it right side out, and then when you're done turning it right side out, just kind of make sure that all of these are nicely poked out. Your flower is nicely formed. And then I took this back to my ironing board. I kind of held my fingers on it enough to where I could hold the slit together and then pressed it in place. Then after I did I don't know, a bunch of them. They're so easy and quick to make. So I just kind of placed them around, and I did use a button to sew on a button, a stitch on my machine, and the sew on button foot, and I just stitched one of them little things right in the center of each one of my flowers. So that's the only place that they're tacked down. So that was kind of fun. Now you can see from this I did more flowers than just the pink one. I did this one here, and I did this one. This one here, when I looked at it, I thought, okay, I could do this applique, but now I've got a lot of different colors going here. I have the green, I have the cream color, I have the blue. So instead of doing that, I decided to do stitches in here instead. So it doesn't really have an applique fabric in it, but I created it the same way that I did an applique. So here it is, the stitched file. This is with it all digitized. So I did my placement line, I did my tack down, I did my outside stitch, I did the satin stitch. So if I wanted to do this applique, it'd be ready to go for that. And then I added a net fill instead of the blue fabric. This is a net fill. I did straight stitches for this color right here, and then I left this just solid. I didn't even bother doing anything with that. So, and then I got a little creative with the inside too. I didn't do applique there either. I did go ahead and do my auto border, but then I left a fill stitch in it. Used my eclipse again, placed that over there, and then these I did again my create outline shape, and just did little satin stitches on those. So it was quick, it was easy, and stitch out. Oh my goodness, that was so quick. This is, you can see that it's ready for the satin stitch here. Now I did do, because part of this I wanted to be covered up with the satin stitch. I wasn't real picky on it, but I did create the net fill before I did the satin stitch around here with the auto border. So it's all in how you want it to turn out. It didn't really matter much for me. And then you can see the stitch out of my straight stitches. So it was kind of fun to do. It was a little bit different, and I liked it. And then the other one that I created was this flower here. This one was a little bit trickier because it's got, the stitching is almost all the same color. This is all the same color until you get to the details and in the center of it. But the trick on this one is to look at it carefully. So this is like the first layer. This would also be a first layer. And so would this piece here. So when I was digitizing, that's exactly how I did it. I did, remember how we did the combine? We went ahead and did around. Well, that's how I did these. So I did those first, and this is where that printout on the bottom really came in handy, because I numbered the petals in this flower, and then I kind of put them on that printout too, what color of fabric was going with it, so I'd know what order to put them in. So those were the first, and then this green one over here was my second layer, and there's only one green one there, so that one piece was my second layer. Then I chose this blue one, and this blue one, and this blue one would be my next layer. So you can kind of see that as you're going through, this one takes a little bit more thought to make sure your layers are all layered correctly. But it worked out good. It was kind of fun to do. I enjoyed it a lot. So this was my stitch out. I combined, and all of these fit in one hooping. So I did left my hoop, the largest hoop, in my software so I could see it, and started placing my flowers around to make sure that they would all stitch in one hooping, or I could have multi-hooped it too, but as long as they fit, I was good on that. And you can see from the finished product over here on the ends, I did two ends the same and just kind of flipped them over. So on the other end of this, this flower would be up here. So it was a fun thing to do. I enjoyed this one a lot. So don't forget to go to your local artistic dealer for more information about artistic software. You have any questions or want to know anything more about it, they are so helpful. They'll help you out with that. So you can go to theartisticcreativeproducts.com, and if you can't remember this whole line of stuff, which I never can, I just type in Artistic Creative Products and it kind of takes me right where I need to go. And then in that in that website, you can click on a tab that says Find a Dealer, and you can locate the closest dealer to you that way. We also are recording this, so you'll be able to listen to it again if you want to, but the project is actually already posted on there. So go to janome.com. The tabs that you'll see, one is for machines, one says Project Center, and one says Learning Center. Click on the Project Center. Then it will take you to another menu. Go again to Project Center and put your mouse on it, and it opens up a new menu, and you'll select Webinars. And when you go there, scroll down, and you're going to see all of the stuff that we have for the artistic webinars. Now, I've done other webinars, and the projects are all available yet for those. You can go back and get those. The top one here is the one that we've done tonight, so you will be able to go see that. You will have the project instructions that you can download and follow them. So I encourage you to check it out. If you have this software, you're going to love it. It really does a lot of stuff. And if you don't have it yet, you might want to check further into it. It is fun software. It does a whole lot of stuff, and we're trying to show you what it will do and keep, you know, things going for you. So if you have any questions or comments, please send an email to janome-webinar@janome-america.com, and we'll get back with you on that. I want to thank all of you for attending. I know that your time is valuable, and I do appreciate every time you show up. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Goodbye, everyone.